Good morning. Yesterday, after I finished the video I did, a gentleman named Craig Noone, Noone, Craig Noone, put a load of garbage on my Facebook page where he explained what he thinks or what he's been told is the system of governance in this country. Every single bit of it has been bent, twisted, manoeuvred, and more than likely written part of this. I've read some of it in Anne Toomey's ravings and in the Australian Constitution, which is not an authorised constitution at all. And a lot of what you've said, you come across as being authoritative. Now, I want to explain something to you. You said Clause 8 says certain things. Clause 8, after the passing of this Act, the Colonial Boundaries Act 1895 shall not apply to any colony which becomes a state of the Commonwealth, but the Commonwealth shall be taken to be a self-governing colony for the purpose of this Act. How come you haven't got it in yourself? Because you decided to take it out, or some other moron, and it has to be a moron to put that out, and you refer to the Northern Territory. The Northern Territory was never lawfully removed from South Australia. I'm talking about lawfully, and I'm talking about the requirements of our law, not what some lawyer would dream up to be fact. It's absolute nonsense. Now, this is, I just read from Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK. It isn't the Constitution for Australia. The way you refer to it, or your document referred to it, is absolute nonsense. This is an enabling act. Garen explains it's an enabling act. When it was proclaimed and gazetted on the 1st of January 1901, it enabled the people from this act to have a constitution subject to this act, and we got it. Constitution, yeah. The Australia Act actually says what I've just said is correct. There is a Constitution Act, an enabling act, and there is a constitution. Your act says it. Your act. The Australia Act that you seem to love so much or have put in there on behalf of someone else. Commonwealth Constitution, this is sections 5. Commonwealth Constitution, Constitution Act and Statute of Westminster not affected. See? Commonwealth Constitution, Constitution Act. Two separate things in the same text. Now, from what you've said, the government can do this, the government can do that. But then I read down further, and I've seen this baloney before. Executive authority, the Premier, this is yours. Executive authority, the Premier as head of the government exercise the executive power advised by the Cabinet under the nominal authority of the Governor. Judicial authority, state Supreme Courts are the highest judicial authority within the state, but their decisions can be appealed to the High Court of Australia, which can interpret the Constitution and federal law. In summary, under both the Australian Constitution, which is the Australian government's, not ours, and the Australia Act, nothing to do with us, at the state level, the state parliament holds the highest legislative authority, while the Premier and Cabinet under the Governor represent the executive. The Australia Act reinforces this by ensuring state sovereignty in legislative matters subject to the overarching federal constitutional framework. All lovey-dovey nice stuff, and makes you feel warm and fuzzy to write that, does it? Because I'll tell you now, this document, no matter who wrote it, whether it was you or some peanut lawyer or some maggot brain professor, every single thing on there is lies. Here are three events or situations where actions might be interpreted as contravening or at least raising questions about application of Clause 8. Territorial surrender and acceptance. Jervis Bay Territory. Oh, look, all this is absolute garbage. So, as of August 1902, New South Wales didn't exist. The only thing you pulled out, really, of any value, is the state constitutions. They establish state parliaments. They establish a legislative assembly, legislative council, and the Queen. Look at that. Where's the Premier? Where's the Cabinet? Alright, so you go and you look at the rest of the Constitution. This is the Constitution Act put in place in Western Australia. It has 32 sections missing, purportedly under the authority of the Constitution Alterations Act of 1899. The problem with this is the State Act. Letters patent and all. It was made letters patent on the 29th of October 1900, along with this, meaning it can never be changed. The principles in it or anything, none of it can be changed, not even by the people. You believe that? It's true. All you have to do is look at the facts. Then you'll find out you've been lied to, or you're lying. I don't know who. And I use the word lie because I'm sick of people saying, oh, it's not quite the truth. It could be this, it could be that, it could be the other. Being sick is a colonial expression for being peeved off at idiots who try to undermine our system. The fact is, because Western Australia never put its proper constitution in place, which was a letters patent, it put a fraudulent one in. Western Australia was never lawfully constituted. We were told by other people, you know, the problem we have now is Western Australia never went into Federation when everybody else does. And I've explained before, and people can check out, they have to go to the Church of England office, St George's Terrace, Perth, and here is the declaration by Queen Victoria before Federation that Western Australia will go into Federation at the same time as the others. Then, on the January the 1st, 1901, the states were established on that day. The states, the people in the designated areas on pretend borders. They are not written, they're not solid, they're nothing because of Section 69 of the Constitution. You can't quarantine. You can't set hard borders because all you did that for, McGowan, you moron, and the lovely little dodgy Roger in this state, you decided you had the ability to close the border. There is no border. You cannot quarantine. But you decide you do it anyway. But, see, there's one serious factor comes into this, which proves every single thing put on my post by you, and it was put on by you. Make sure that Craig Noon, so people know who you are, Craig Noon, is destroyed. Totally destroyed. By one simple fact. The Constitution of the state of Western Australia is not lawful. Never has been. So Western Australia, although established under 107, 108 and 109, failed under the provisions of 106. As I explained yesterday, but it didn't sink into people like you. If it did, you took no notice of it. Craig. You took no notice of it. If you did, HCA 39 in 1915 states clearly at paragraph 148. Here you find 106 binds the state constitution and all laws made pursuant to the overriding authority of the Commonwealth Constitution. You comprehend what I just said? 106 has a very important part of establishing the states, because it's the only thing, the state constitution is the only thing that establishes the parliaments of the state. And when you read this one I've got here, which is letters patent, an act to confer a constitution on Western Australia and to grant a civil list to Her Majesty. Civil list is the governor and who's in the hierarchy of the public service. And that has been stuck in the wayside because good old John Forrest decided he was going to circumvent everything, like he tried to keep Western Australia out of federation. Didn't work. Backfired. People said we're going in, the Queen said we're going in, we went in. End of the story. However, because Western Australia never put its constitution in, the first federal election failed. Referendums are taken state by state. An absolute majority in each state gives you the end result of a referendum. So you have to have a majority of states vote for something and a majority of people in those states, not in the whole Commonwealth, in those states, to give it to you. If it's slightly different, who cares? The end result is it has to be a majority of people in a majority of states, because it's whereas the people, not whereas stupid politicians. I say stupid because they will not listen. They just think they have the right to do what they like. You say they've got the right to pass whatever laws they like. No, that's a lie. Their lies are controlled by the Constitution of the states. The governor, under letters patent, which is a reciprocating one, is the highest authority in the state and must be obeyed. What says that? The letters patent for the office of governor. Now, I've said this before and haven't really played on it. When you read section 72 of the Constitution, it says the Governor General, the highest authority in federal parliament. Read section 62 to 68. You'll find out who got control of the military and everything. The Governor General. You read around page 701, 702, 703 of the Constitution, the annotated one. You'll find out that this is our annotated version, the actual Hansard of our framers, not the Australian Constitution, which is a load of absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. That's all it is. Now, let's get back to what I was saying. The problem you now have, all of you, we have never had a lawful federal parliament. We needed 6 lawfully constituted states complying with 106, 107, 108 and 109 of the Constitution to create the first parliament. I've read this nonsensical rhetoric that you put on my post. That's all it is. Everybody should read it and see how bent and twisted and stupid some people are to put that crap together. You read the immigration laws, what they call immigration. Very few of the questions are actual truthful. The rest is crap, nonsense, garbage, not the truth. There are 2 tiers of governance in this country, federal and state. Look at the diagram on page 701 of the annotated Constitution. It says Commonwealth, quasi-sovereign. That's us, the people. Under it, the Constitution. Our Constitution, not the government's. Sorry, you missed out. Under that, federal parliament, the legislature, the executive and the judicature. 3 separate units of governance at federal level. We've never ever had it. never ever had it, and still don't, and we can't. And I'll explain all of this because I'm sick of people coming on and lying to the people of this country, and that's exactly what you're doing, lying to the people of this country. You put all these claims and about Aboriginal claims, land rights and all that. None of that can be discussed. None of it. Because there's no federal parliament to put any legislation together. So all the decisions granting land rights and that, you've lied to these people. I didn't say they don't exist. I don't say they can't exist. They cannot exist the way they're put. But it creates a huge situation which is created by political parties to divide this country into pieces. And that's exactly what it does. Now, in August 1902, 1 year and a few months after Federation, New South Wales removed its state constitution and replaced it with another one. There's 2 states gone. 1922, Queensland removed its upper house. No matter for what reason, they can't do it by referendum that changes their constitution being a letters patent. It changed it. Queensland doesn't exist. So we've got 3 gone. They still can't create a parliament, a federal parliament. Then you go to South Australia and Tasmania. They removed theirs. Replaced them with other ones. Then in 1975, Victoria did. So, you know, the problem is the Australia Act just shot you in the feet again. Why? Because it can. An act, I'll read it to you so that you can clarify this in your head. An act to bring constitutional arrangements affecting the Commonwealth and the states into conformity with the status of the Commonwealth of Australia as a sovereign, independent federal nation. It never was. So how are you going to bring it in? Does that change the constitution? Oh yeah. From a self-governing colony to a sovereign, independent and federal nation. Who said you can? Did you ask us? No. Requires a referendum. So Ann Toomey, you got that one wrong as well. So you've got 2 years now, Craig. Whereas the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth and the Premiers of the States at conferences held in Canberra on the 24th and 25th of June 1982 and the 21st of June 1984 agreed on the taking of certain measures to bring constitutional arrangements affecting the Commonwealth and the States into conformity with the status of the Commonwealth of Australia as a sovereign, independent federal nation. What a load of crud. Absolute lies and treason in that alone. And whereas in pursuant of paragraph 51(38) of the Constitution, the Parliaments of all the States have requested the Parliament of the Commonwealth to enact an Act in the terms of this Act. Be it therefore enacted by the Queen and the Senate and the House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Australia as follows. Termination of powers. We'll forget all that because simply you can't have it. You can't have it. And that's your Australia Act. Now, why can't you? Let's go to 51(38). I'll look it up and I'll read it to you because quite honestly you can't, or whoever wrote that garbage can't figure it. Alright? This is 51(38) that the Australia Act refers to, giving them authority to do what they want. The exercise with the Commonwealth at the request or with the concurrence of the Parliaments of all the States directly concerned, or any power which can, at the establishment of this Constitution, be exercised only by the Parliaments of the United Kingdom or by the Federal Council of Australia. Well, at Federation there was no powers could be exercised by the Federal Parliament because it hadn't been voted in yet. That's simple. Blind Freddy could tell you that, and he can't even read. But you seem to think that with the conferral of the Parliaments of all the States, the Parliaments of all the States are not sovereign. Page 791, the last paragraph says, neither the federal nor the state parliaments are sovereign bodies, only legislatures with limited authority. That knocks that out. Every single Constitution, the Commonwealth Constitution Act and the Constitution derived from it, the state constitution and the letters patent for office of governor are all letters patents. Only the monarch can change or alter those. Nobody else. The assertion by what you put, Craig, is that the federal parliament had the power to make the Australia Act on the request of the states. Well, there weren't any states. There were no parliaments in any state. As I said, the parliaments of a state are established, how? By the state constitutions. You take them out and change them. You breach 106, you got no state parliaments. None. Not one. So where'd the request come from? I know you got in and asked the Tooth Fairy or Father Christmas to do it. Had to be. There was no one else around who could do it. Who told you that what you put here is truth? It's not. Who told you that without a lawful federal parliament, because you couldn't have one, remember, voting is state by state. It seems to, from this piece of paper you got, that it's all taken at a federal level. No, it's not. When the purported federal parliament decided they could have an electoral act, electoral commission, they lied to the people. Lied. They didn't mislead, deceive, or any softly thing. They told us a pack of lies, tried to con us into accepting their rubbish. And if you don't do it, we're going to fine you for not voting. Aren't they nice little people who are serving us? Not. And the opposition, they opposed us and signed with them anyway. Opposition, yeah, to what we say. Are they normal or are they just sick people? They're sick, who think they run this country and we're too stupid to work it out. This is what's going on. You can't figure an election. Western Australia has one. New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, South Australia, Tasmania, all have separate elections, except Western Australia can't have one. Still can't. Why? On January the 1st, 2004, they created another entity unknown to the Constitution called the states. Removed the Crown under Section 8 of that and made lawyers officers of the court. Why would you make an officer of the court, a lawyer, an officer of the court? Because all your judges and magistrates are lawyers. They can't be. They can't be. None of them have sworn the oath in the Constitution. No so-called public servant, none of them who work for the public service or under the Public Service Act has sworn a lawful oath. So you're not public servants. You're servants under the Australia Act of the Australian government. Traitors to this country. Every single one of you. Front your bosses and say, I want to take the lawful act. If you don't do it, this is your only chance. It's been brought to your attention. Go and tell them, I work for the Crown in the public service of the people who are the Commonwealth of Australia, in the colony of the Commonwealth of Australia. That's the only way the law can read from Federation and from the 1999 referendum when we voted to retain it all. Stop lying. Tell the truth. Now, as for going to the polling booth, do not get your name ticked off the book. And the 32% that vote for Labor, good luck with that. If you vote for them, you're morons and you're traitors to this country, and I don't care if you're unionist, you're going to threaten me again, or all the other crap you want to come out with. You are still filthy, lying traitors. If you back any political party, you are a filthy, lying traitor. Otherwise, show me in the Constitution says you can have political parties. You can't. You cannot. Don't like what I'm saying? Too bad. I've had enough of being lied to. I've had enough of people coming on my page and putting what you put on here, Craig. read Clause 8, it doesn't say what you say. It may in your annotated version of the Constitution, but certainly not ours. I read you what it says in ours of the Constitution, Clause 8. We are a self-governing colony, and on the proclamation of the Constitution under Clause 7, the old entities known as the Australasian Council and the colony ceased to exist. On the 9th of July 1900, from the 9th of July 1900 until the 1st of January 1901, there were no states. They didn't exist yet. There were no colonies. They were gone, and no Australasian Council. The states were run by the governors, and they did have people there. They can call them what they like. There is no such lawful entity in the Constitution as a Premier. There is no such lawful entity in the Constitution as the Prime Minister. Now, let's look at it. Who runs this country? The Governor-General. He is the highest authority. He gets advice from the Parliament, but he's not bound by that advice. The advice is what is necessary to run this country correctly and comply with the Constitution. The Parliament is there to help the Governor-General. Now, when a new election happens, if we ever have one for the federal Parliament, which we haven't, all the ones so far have been fraud, if we did have one, the problem then would arise. You must first swear in the Parliament. Every senator and every member of the House of Representatives, before taking their seat, must swear the oath contained in the schedule to the Constitution. I read that yesterday from the Constitution for Mr. Rennick's sake. Hopefully he switches. He's got good ideas. Switch, take the oath and do the right thing. It's not up to me if you get prosecuted. You committed offence, but there is mitigating circumstances. You've been lied to and misled. You won't want to change it, then you get sacked. You're sitting unlawfully under Section 44 of the Constitution. And if you put your hand on the Quran, the Book of Buddha, or Seventh-day Adventist, or anything else other than the Bible, King James Version, and don't swear the oath in the Constitution, you're wrong. You can't sit. You're incapable of sitting. You then become totally incapable because you committed an act of treason by swearing an unlawful oath. And that's where you got the problem. And Lorraine, the Governor-General, is not sitting under the correct oath. That's what I'm just explaining. They're handpicked by the idiots. It's time to wake up. What they're saying is correct. You fill out those letters. And I thought about those letters. Fill one out. Sign them. Because none of those people they're putting up for candidates at the election are valid, whether it's state or federal level. So do one and deliver it to the state members, give them a copy, and on the day hand it to the woman or men in charge of the electoral office where you're going to vote, or the voting station, whichever they like to call it. But it's a voting office, should be, and it has rules. So you just hand them that and walk out. You cannot vote for any one of those people because you complied. And as for the people who vote for the Labor Party without even looking at what's going on, if you want to own your land, because you don't now, they've taken it off you. And they've stolen your title. Who did it? The Labor Party. Who backed them up? The Liberal Party, Nationals and Greens. They don't want you to own anything because while you don't own anything, you're under their control. What have I did? I put my property on the line. Van Stein and Ross McKim from the Geraldton, city of Greater Geraldton, city of slums, administered by morons. You stole my land. You stole it. You did not prove I owed you money. And it didn't matter because what did McGowan say? Doesn't matter. If the Act says you owe the money, you owe the money. What happened to a court? We won't worry about that because McGowan's a good little liar, a thief and a fraud. So he's not going to worry about the truth. I won the case. The magistrate told them they could not get an order to remove the property from my land. He could not give them an order in relation to my land. He didn't have the authority. His words. When I threw your green, moronic, useless piece of junk you call a constitution on the table and said, this will put you behind bars, he started shaking. Then I picked it up and I threw it down again and I said, wake up, this is going to put you behind bars for the rest of your life. He grabbed his books and walked out of the court in a big hurry with a stupid smile on his face. I don't call him dumb, I call him an intelligent person who listened to the law that was put to him and obeyed it. He's been made to a judge. How can he be made up to a judge? He is still a lawyer. In that case, I showed he was sitting in treason, had failed to swear the lawful oath as required. Nothing he was doing was lawful. We've got magistrates now sitting in the court, haven't sworn the lawful oath. You're sitting unlawfully. Your oath is to the Bar Association, it's unlawful. Unlawful. Under 44 of the Constitution, you're sitting in treason. Absolutely sitting in treason. I can't believe there's so many stupid fools sitting in our courts think they can get away with what they're doing. Well, you can't. It's coming back to bite you on the butt, so I was told by the Parliament of Western Australia, which wasn't lawful anyway, and still is not. So, Dodgy Roger, you are a criminal. You're a traitor to this country. You know that the Acts Amendment Repeals Court and Legal Practice Act is unlawful. You know that the Oaths, Affidavits and Statutory Declarations Act, which you purport took the Oath of Allegiance from this Constitution, you even took it out. You were so stupid to do that, you people, and you were in the Parliament. This has Schedule E, which is the oath. There's no Schedule E. The oath in this lawful one is contained in the Constitution, not as an attachment, not as a schedule, as a straight out requirement to swear the oath. And you're not doing it. So what have you got now? You've got nothing. And your Australia Act, it changes the Western Australian Constitution, Queensland Constitution, and makes all these claims of being perfectly lawful when it is absolute moronic oxymoron. How can you change us to an independent, sovereign and federal nation without interfering with the Commonwealth Constitution, the Constitution Act and the Statute of Westminster? Not affected by it according to your Australia Act. It's not ours. And nobody can enact an act that creates this country as something different than the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK, which was proclaimed and gazetted in this country on the 1st of January 1901. It was already enacted and proclaimed in England. It was law. Our Constitution is derived from it, cannot be changed, only altered, and only with the permission of the reigning monarch. That goes state constitution and all. Once they were made letters patent, only the reigning monarch can change them. Nobody else can touch it. Go and read it. It's all there. Trouble is, you are not listening to anything. You think you've got all these powers. You haven't. There were no states, no premiers, no nothing in 1986 when you put through the Australia Act. With a bit of luck, it'll stab old Bob Hawke in the back and he'll roll over in his grave if he didn't get baked. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What I said is 100% correct, and I have all the documents, including your own, which say you're wrong. Our own, the people of who are the Commonwealth, we said you're wrong, and you are wrong. So thank you. I've got nothing more to say, and hopefully I will hear from Craig and he'll say he got that off a Commonwealth website. I hope he did. I hope it's not what he said, because if he said, he's a traitor. If he's repeating what they said for our information, thank you, Craig, for putting it on my post. But if you didn't and you adhere to this, you're a traitor. It's in the document and I can prove it. So thank you.